Hello and welcome to Top of the World. I'm Simon. Today's project, LYNX Ranger 49900 Ace G, latest, all singing, all dancing, Snowmobile, not well. So, this has been brought to me because it's broken, or it is breaking after a period of time. And I've been asked to do two things. I've been asked to replace the sock in the bottom of the gas tank. So I'm assuming we need to clean that as well. Strange one. Anyway, that might well be the cause of it breaking down. And then install an engine heater, which I haven't seen. I don't know what entails installing a engine heater on one of these, or where it goes, or even where the engine is. And I'm assuming it's under all that plastic. And then in this box, as well as finding a very weird salt deposit of some sort, I found an extremely dirty, blocked up fuel filter. Do I know? Obviously I can't speak today, and I don't know much anyway. Do I know how all this works? How it comes apart, what's inside? No, don't know anything about it. But if I go on the basis that men made this, men must be able to take it apart, fix it and put it back together. So I've done a few different snowmobiles now. It's the first one or anything this new. I don't usually touch anything new because it's got computers in it. Yeah, it's kind of worrying that he thinks it's the sock. So what happens is, roughly after 40 minutes, this shuts down. If it's after 40 minutes, I'm generally going with something heat related. Generally, because it's consistent, because then you can leave it for a little while and then it works again. Or is it fuel? It's fuel related for sure, probably. Could be a number of things breaking down after 40 minutes. Anyway, I don't know what that would be, but I do know I've been asked to replace the sock in the fuel tank, and we'll clean the fuel tank out, and when we get the fuel tank out, it'll give us a better idea of why that filter looks like that. Anyway, I'm going to start by getting as much of this old plastic off as we can, so we can see what we're looking at, and then unboxing the engine heater and see where that goes. And well, I don't even know where the fuel tank is, but bearing in mind this is the vacuum. Bearing in mind this is the gas tank lid. The gas tank must be under all this. That don't smell good. Okay. This new fuel that the whole world has got, this watered down shit, it's no good for anything, you know. It's really, I just don't understand. Yeah, that's bad. Okay. Right, let's crack into all the plastic then. We don't even know. Things that fly off. Where did that come from? There. Did it? Did that come from there? Okay. We have a thing. Right, well that helps us a lot. That does. So much plastic. Okay. This definitely ain't the way forward. It's not the way forward. So on my Yamaha, you undo 2 rubber clips and the whole front lifts forwards, and you've already got access to everything. I'm 40 minutes into this, right, and I can't even see the engine. There is quite a nice big hole under there. So, yeah, let's say for picking my nose sake, 35 minutes, now I've got to take all of this off, right, just to expose the head of the fuel tank. And even when you take all that off, I still don't think it exposes the top of the engine. It must be a logistical, no, not a logistical, mechanical and engineering nightmare to work on this engine to do a basic service, because you can't even get to the coil packs. I don't understand. I don't understand how this is advancement at all. Does it pull any more weight than mine? No. Does it go faster than mine? It hasn't got enough cylinders to go faster than mine. It probably looks better, although that's a matter of opinion. Anyway, I don't understand why. There must be 12 bits of plastic I've removed so far, and I still can't get to the spark plugs. Not that I want to, but if I wanted to, I'd just... Right. Anyway, so now we're done with the screws. Now we're into bolts and other stuff. I've got no way of remembering how this all came apart. But I do know I ain't even close to being able to get where I need to get. I can see the fuel tank. I'm pretty sure that's part of the fuel tank there, but the neck's right up here. And then you've got all this. Well, that's a ridiculous amount of time to get to the seat. So what I didn't realise was this whole piece of plastic here is one huge fuel tank. The seat goes on it, the battery bolts to it, everything. I've had to undo some frame strutting and take off pretty much everything at the front. And I've just undone the 2 bolts there. And I don't know how else this tank... is, is attached. It appears to have an awful lot of fuel in it. Right, we can move it a little bit that way. Okay, I can see where we got to get to now. Right, inside there. Right. So that whole piece there of plastic, that's all the fuel tank. And that has taken somewhat of extreme measures. I've got plastic everywhere. Huge amounts of plastic. That's taken somewhat of extreme measures to get this far. And I've had to unbolt the chassis members. Right, so in here... In there, right. So we've got to disconnect the fuel line, disconnect that power lead, and we should be able to slide the entire fuel tank out. Hello puppy. What are we doing here then, Simon? Well, I'm working on 2 jobs. The reason I was going to start that tomorrow, this week anyway, I wanted it done. But we're swapping this door around on the cabin. And of course it's easy to say turn the door around so it opens out under the porch as opposed to in the normal way. But once you've put the new lock in, you've got to fill in, there's the new lock, all the old hinges, and then you've got to fill in the door lock the way it was and cut out your new hinges, and you've got to do all that. And I was kind of waiting for glue to go off, and you've got to do the same on the frame, obviously. Fill in all the bits where everything was, put the new hinges on. So whilst I was waiting for the glue to dry, I thought I would start on this, and then I got a bit carried away. So I went and had a bit of lunch, and I come back and I sanded down the door, and because there's nothing like sawdust and fine bits with fuel tank and mechanics and all of that. I want to put this lid back on because this fuel tank is like really full. So we've got to breathe the hose up the top there, which needs to come off like that. And then we move that back a bit further. That must be for the fuel sender. And then we've got the fuel line on this side, which appears to have, we can probably take that off. Is that 8 or 10 millimetre? That's the 8. So much has to come off to get this far. It's a bit shocking. Anyway, we are getting there. Appears to be right up to that level. So we're going to have a job getting this out without spilling fuel everywhere. And I'll stick my finger in there like the little boy in the dam. Yep. All right. Okay, that's a good sized fuel tank, that is. I like that. I like the way it's spread over. So that's the basic chassis now then. So when you get into all of that, that's not actually a bad design. The engine's further back, which gives you much better weight distribution. Mine's much further forwards, and it's just like one big tunnel. So now I've got that off, I'm actually liking the design of how that works. I really am. It's a shame we've had to, you know, it's got so much plastic. I think I would have much rather them worked out how to remove all that in one go. We've got plenty of room in here for the preheater. Okay, so there's the bit on the front of the tank. We've got to empty that tank now. I'm going to run it through a fine particle filter as I'm emptying it. And then we take that off and see what condition the sock is, and we can also see at that point what the state of the inside of the tank is and why it's blocking filters. They don't pour very well when the tank's upside down. Okay, that must be it. Well, there's some stuff in there, but nothing extraordinary about that. Okay, we've got a steel clip here. Remove that. Assuming that's held in with one big rubber O-ring. There we go, there's the one big rubber O-ring. That's the fuel pump, and that's the sender unit, and here comes the pipe with no sock on it. Right. Well, that's interesting. Okay, sender unit, fuel pump, pipe with no sock. but it looks clean. Can we see anything? Down in the tank. Well, I've got to admit, it's not the cleanest tank I've seen for a new plastic tank, but it's sand. It's just that sand that we have everywhere. Right, I'm going to have to clean that out a bit better, because I can see fine sand and gold flakes in there, which is what we live on. And then the fact that that's got no sock on it. Does that mean somebody's been in here before me? Doesn't look like it. Yeah. See, that's dirty all around the ring as well. Okay, let's clean this tank up. I don't know how it's got this much dirt in there, but I do know he uses it in the forest for logging. Well, so do I, but that's just generally dirty on the inside of that tank. Right, I'm going to clean the tank out, and then we're going to fit that sock and then put it all back together. All right. Now, with all that cleaned and the new sock on, okay, that was a nightmare. I had to use silicone spray in the end to get that O-ring to pop in there. Now, I've got this strap. This is a kind of handle, needs to go underneath here. I want to make sure I don't get any dirt now in that tank. I'll put that strap on. Right, I've got the tank bolted back on, and I've got the chassis members and all the steering bolted back together. But while I got this open, I thought it was a good time to put this preheater in. Most vehicles have these. They heat the water, and it's got a built-in pump. So it's a pump and a heater, and then it heats the water and pushes it around the engine and preheats it. It has got on this water outlet this way up. So really it's got to be installed like that. I'll kind of get you in there a bit better, so we can see what's going on in here. So the radiator's kind of laying down at an angle, and there's your top hose and there's your bottom hose. So I want to be installing this into this hose here, like that. Now, as with all these generic things, this is all you get. Right, so there's no bracket or anything, it's quite weighty. I get a sense it's going to knock, because these things are, you know, used and abused. Anyway, that's where it needs to go. It needs to go into there, about like that, but it would be installed there, but drop down slightly. Now there is a bolt there, but I don't have a bracket. You know, I don't. Anyway, I suppose being generic, how would you know what kind of bracket to make for it? But while I've got this open, I'm going to pop this in to the water system. That's that installed, and I fixed it off with a man-sized tie wrap to the frame. So we should I've definitely filled it up when I have. We should be able to plug this in now and something should happen. Right. Well, we can hear the pump running. And I can feel some warmth. And we have movement. Okay, right, I'm not quite sure where I'm going to run the cable out yet, but what I can do is start putting the main front section on, and then as I'm putting it back together, it will kind of show me where the lead wants to go. That's kind of where I am with it. Yeah, let's just leave that to do its thing. Bolts on there like that. How does all that bolt together? I've only just taken it off and I've no idea how all this goes back together. I do know they're the headlights. We probably don't want to plug those in until we understand what's going on here. Right, how's this heater doing? Oh yeah. You know, once I've got that on there, I've no longer got access to the water, and the lid's not even on. So I've just laid that on there and I've lost all access to what I was doing, so you know, that's not even a thing really. And now the air filter's connected back up and can't access the water top up. Wow. I'm not into that at all. I'll show you what I mean. So this is just part of the housing and everything else screws to it. So here is the fluid level. Well, it's already knocked the cap off, so the cap's gone. I don't know where the cap's gone, but it has. So once you've kind of, if I move this back round into where it's got to go, there. Can you sensibly, it's not really in the right position, if I'm honest. Right, so there's your top off thing, and it's underneath all that, and you can't get in there to undo the cap. So in order to top off the fluid, right, you have to remove all of this. And you can't remove any of that until you've removed all of this. So that's not a daily check anymore. It just isn't. You can't even see it without removing all the plastics. So it isn't a daily check anymore. Righty then, back together, shined, notice, detailed. I haven't done the, do you know I'm going to have to get some of these? So firstly, let me go back to the LYNX 49 Ranger 900 Ace Pro. I was very critical when I was taking this apart. The endless amount of plastics and screws and... Am I with it now? Okay. Having had this apart, put it back together and then had it apart again because it didn't fit properly and I hadn't put all the screws in. Right, once you've done it a few times, it's not as bad as it appears. Also, these big side panels, once you know how they work, right, and you're familiar with them, come off real easy, giving you access to a lot of stuff. I absolutely do not like access to the spark plugs and the coil packs. I don't like that. But when we add it to its bare bones and we look at the chassis and we look at where the engine is, right, and how it's built, I'm with it. Right, I'm right there. I think this is much, much better balanced. Can probably appreciate, you know, I watched a lot of the boys in the big mountains in Canada, Alaska, North America, doing their stunts and stuff. And I'm like, you just, how is that? Well, when you've got a balanced machine like this, I can see that. Is this a triple? Yeah, I didn't even realise it was a triple. Triple Rotax. So I have a lifelong affiliation with Rotax through karting, through racing. Right, so me and my brother have been inside a Rotax more times than you can shake a stick. I don't really know what that means. Anyway, more times than you can shake a wobbly stick at a sheep. So, how do I feel about this now? I really need a machine like this because my old one's not quite so reliable. However, I don't like the access to this. Do you need access to this if your machine's more reliable? Probably not. Do you need access if you've got a preheater, which I don't? Probably not. Every year before I start using my Snowmobile, do I have to strip out all the plugs and do this ridiculous service on it? Does it let me down on the coldest days from here when I'm trying? Yeah, because I don't have a preheater. So this makes this much more usable. The other thing I was going to get into is the massive, massive overskis to be able to ride in powder. And of course the new track, which mine doesn't have, which... Anyway, how do I feel about this now? Yeah, much better than I did. Much, much better than I did. Once you know how it comes apart, and how easy it is to come apart, and how easy it is to go back together, it's not that bad at all. And I like the machine, I just didn't like because I wasn't familiar with it, and now I am. Because I've had to take it apart, you know, again, the plastic. I found a screw, and... Anyway, so I filtered the fuel out, I filtered the fuel back in, and I cleaned the petrol tank out. And all I can find is sand. Is that fuel tank contamination, as in gas cans that he's filling it up? I don't know how there's so much sand inside the tank because it's winter use. I don't know. I don't know. Do we have a problem here with sand in fuel filters? Well, yeah, because we're on fine sand. You know, there's... So I'm not quite sure why there's sand contaminants in the fuel. It's all cleaned now, and it's got a new sock on the, or a sock on the line, and I've installed the preheater, and I'm going to give you a little walk around and then we're going to fire her up. So the extra wide skis for the soft snow, so important there, and I don't have them. So you can see the original ski inside, and then them sat on this huge outer ski for soft powdery snow, forests where you're going snow, much, much, much better. And we're all polished up and shiny. It looks wet, it isn't. That's elbow grease. Turn that. That's going to open. And then in order to start her up, I think we pull that up and then we just press that. Oh my God, look at that. You know, that's done quite a lot of kilometres, that has. And she fires straight up. Look at that. Nice. Real nice. Okay. That's ready to go back to its owner now. Lovely. I do like it. I like it a lot. So it's got eco mode and it's got sport mode. Not quite sure what the difference is. Anyway, she fires right up and runs real sweet. Real sweet. And that's that. Okay, well, that wasn't such a bad job, really. Nice. No snow yet, but it won't be long. Not that bad, not that bad at all. Really like it. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate that. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.